For 12 long years, I went out of my way to treat my wife's family to extravagant vacations. Every year, without fail, I would foot the bill for luxurious trips, whether it was booking first-class flights, reserving five-star hotels, or planning elaborate activities. They would always tell me that I needed a break, a moment to unwind, to finally relax and enjoy some time away. Naturally, I took their advice, thinking that perhaps it was time for me to enjoy the fruits of my labor, only to end up in a terrible hotel, while they enjoyed the luxurious resort just 4 blocks away. When I figured it out, I called the real hotel's manager and calmly watched as they were escorted out. And the worst part? I had paid for both places. My wife's family and I arrived at the destination, but instead of being whisked away to the same stunning resort they were staying at, I was dropped off at a rundown, no-name motel a few blocks away. My wife's sister had the audacity to book me a room in that disgusting, decrepit excuse for a hotel, so I dragged myself over to see what I was dealing with. The moment I walked in, I was hit by the overwhelming stench of mildew and rot, and my stomach dropped. The furniture, if you could even call it that, was worn out, aged beyond belief, and looked like it hadn't been touched in decades. I honestly don't know how they had the nerve to charge anyone for this. Insects were scurrying across the floor, like they owned the place. Who knows how long they've been nesting in the grime? The faucet? It was dripping like some cruel joke, an endless trickle of water that echoed in the silence of that hellhole. And don't even get me started on the toilet. Yellow stains, filth you wouldn't believe, like they hadn't even bothered to clean it in months. But the worst part? The room didn't even have a window. It was like they just shoved me in a dark, damp storage closet on the moldy first floor and hoped I wouldn't notice. I felt suffocated, trapped in this nightmarish hole. It was supposed to be a place of rest, but it was nothing short of torture. When I saw that grotesque, hellish room, that's when it hit me. I'd been completely, utterly tricked. The entire situation felt like a cruel prank. There was no way this was a legitimate hotel. It was a dump, a disaster, a place that had no right being called a room or a hotel. I was enraged, disgusted, and to be honest, I couldn't believe my own sister-in-law would subject me to something like this. I didn't lose my temper. No yelling. No throwing my phone. I just turned around and called my wife's sister. She picked up right away. "Oh hey, did you check in okay?" Her voice sounded so happy, as if she hadn't just pulled off the most heartless trick I'd ever seen. "No," I said, my voice calm but full of quiet anger. "Apparently, the hotel is in terrible condition. The room is a dump. The furniture is falling apart, insects crawl around, the faucet leaks like it's from the Stone Age, and the toilet is dirty, yellow, as if it hasn't been cleaned in years. And there's no window. What the hell did you book me this dump for? Maybe I should swap my room with yours in that fancy Hilton." There was a brief silence. Then she said, that's strange. Maybe there are 2 hotels at the same address, and yours is the 5-star one. Cut it out, Emma." I snapped, my voice sharp with frustration. I could feel my blood boiling as I gripped the phone tighter. This wasn't some innocent mistake, and she knew it. I wasn't about to let her deflect or pretend that this was just some bizarre coincidence. Silence again. I kept going, my voice cold. "You really sent me to a fake hotel. This place is a complete nightmare. Everything about it screams cheap and run down. Hell, this should be paying me just to stay here for one night. You've got to be kidding me, right? This is a disgrace. How dare you book me into a place like this? I wouldn't even let my worst enemy stay here, and you expect me to sleep in this dump? While you all are relaxing at the Hilton, drinking cocktails. On my dime. I don't know what you're talking about. That's not true. That's not fair. Not fair." I let out a bitter laugh. "You all said I deserved to relax, that I worked too hard. But now, I'm not invited to the real hotel? You thought I wouldn't notice?" Her tone changed, turning sharp. "We just thought maybe it'd be better if you had your own space this time. You've been a little tense." That's when I finally understood. This wasn't random. They had planned this, probably for months. Smiling in my face while pushing me aside, like I was nothing more than their personal cash machine. The reliable one. The bank. The fool. I ended the call, walked the 4 blocks to the Hilton, stood at the front desk, and calmly said 4 words. "Call your manager now." It always started the same way, with guilt. "You've been working so hard. You need a break," my wife's mother would say, swirling her wine and sending snapshots of luxury resorts. "Let's all go as a family. Like old times." But there were no old times like that. Not really. I was always the one who faded into the background, quiet, average, forgettable. The steady one. My wife's sister, Emma? She was the star, always the life of the party, always getting attention. Her brother, Eric? The rebellious one who could do whatever he wanted and still get away with it. And me? I stayed out of trouble. Worked hard. Got a stable job in finance. Predictable. That's what made me valuable to them. The first trip I financed was when my wife's mother lost her job. She cried on the phone, going on about how they hadn't traveled in years, and wouldn't it be wonderful to get away together? For an entire week, every single day, my wife Clara persistently asked me to help her mom plan a small getaway, and, of course, she wanted to bring all of her relatives along for the trip. Plus, we were expected to go with them as well. Her requests were constant and left me no peace. I gave in. Booked a beach villa, flights, rental, a private chef. The whole thing. I told myself I was doing it for them. From the moment we arrived, I was treated like the help. Can you grab the check? I forgot my card. We should do the dolphin thing. You've got that bonus, right? This place is amazing. You must be rolling in it. So proud of you. Proud, yet not proud enough to pay their share. Still, I smiled. Played along. Even laughed when Emma called me wallet in front of the waiter. That should have been my sign to stop. But I didn't. I kept paying. Year after year. Vacation after vacation. And they kept asking for more. One year it was Italy. Then the Maldives. When Emma got married the first time, they asked if I'd gift them a longer honeymoon. Just an extra week in Bora Bora. At the time, I hesitated, wondering if I should really go through with it. But Clara insisted, saying it would mean so much to her sister. She'd been trying to convince me for days, telling me how much it would mean to her family, how important it was to keep the peace. She promised it would be a small, simple gesture, just a token of generosity. I wanted to say no, but her pleading had worn me down. Every time I looked into her eyes, I saw that same hope, that same belief that everything could be fixed with just one more gesture. So I gave in. Maybe it wasn't the right choice, but at the time, it felt like the only choice I had left. My wife's parents played their parts too. Her father stayed mostly quiet, just nodding when the trip plans were approved. Her mother? She knew exactly how to push the guilt button, voice soft, eyes tired. It's not about the money, she'd say. It's about keeping the family close. Close. That was a joke. Every trip, I saw how they would slowly push me out. Emma and Clara were always the ones who picked out the rooms. Eric took charge of the music playlists. I covered all the expenses, yet somehow, I was excluded from both the decision-making and, more, from the fun. They'd often disappear for group dinners without saying a word to me, then post pictures online with captions like family time, while I sat alone in my room, finishing off leftovers. Still, I kept quiet. Until last year. Something changed during our trip to Mexico. I had paid for a massive suite, big enough for a small wedding party. But one evening, after returning from a quiet swim alone, I found my name missing from the dinner reservation. My wife Clara didn't even look up from her phone. We figured you wouldn't want to come, she said with a shrug. I paid for this, I reminded her. Oh, come on. You always act like you're not into these things. It's just dinner, she said, as if it was no big deal. But it wasn't just dinner. It was part of a pattern. I was always treated like the outsider who paid the bills. That night, I sat on the edge of my bed, staring at the glowing lights of the resort, wondering what role I played in their lives. It was the first time I seriously thought about walking away. But somehow, they pulled me back in. In March, Emma called again. Emma and my wife Clara were both into yoga, meditation, and self-discovery now. They insisted we needed another reset trip, some bonding time. They promised to handle everything, just like we used to do. Just send me your card, Emma said. I'll plan it all. Trust me. And like a fool, I did. $14,225. That covered the flights, rooms, activities, spa treatments, everything. I transferred the money to her and told myself I was being kind, supportive, a good brother-in-law, husband, and overall a good relative. But something didn't feel right. She avoided questions about the schedule, delayed sharing the hotel details, and finally told me that I'd be in a different part of the resort due to availability issues. They had sent me to a fake hotel, a filthy, disgusting, stinking place. How the hell could they think this was okay? This wasn't just a bad hotel, it was a health hazard. How could they do this? They really expected me to just accept it? After 12 years of paying for their vacations, they cast me aside like I didn't matter. This wasn't a mistake. It was planned. They wanted the luxury trip, just without me. I was nothing more than a walking credit card to them. And this time, they didn't even pretend otherwise. So I called Emma, heard the coldness in her voice. And for once, I didn't let it slide. I marched into the Hilton, demanded to speak with the manager, and handed over every document. Receipts, names, the fraudulent emails she'd used to cover her tracks. Then I waited. I watched as the concierge's expression shifted. He made a few quiet calls. Hotel security started to gather near the elevator. I sat there calmly, sipping the complimentary sparkling water they brought me. I never expected the hotel to intervene. I just wanted someone to acknowledge the betrayal. But apparently, five-star hotels don't appreciate scams or stolen identities, especially when the person footing the entire bill shows up with hard evidence of the con. The manager compared the emails, confirmed Emma had used my card for a real booking under her name, and phoned corporate. Then he turned to me with a look that sent a chill down my spine. "Would you like us to resolve this quietly, Mr. Cross?" he asked. I shook my head. "No, let everyone see." The manager nodded, but his next words caught me completely off guard. "We're going to need to evict all 6 people from their rooms, Mr. Cross." I blinked in confusion. 6? I asked. "But there should only be 5 people, my wife and her family." The manager was calm as he replied. "According to our records, 3 rooms were booked, each with 2 occupants. In one, we have your wife's parents listed. In another, a brother and sister. And in the third, your wife, Clara, along with a person named Jacob Carter." I felt a cold knot form in my stomach. Jacob Carter? That name wasn't familiar to me at all. But as I sat there processing the information, it hit me like a ton of bricks. Jacob Carter was her coworker, the same person she'd often mentioned in passing. But now, it sounded like he wasn't just a colleague. He was with her, in a hotel room, and I had been paying for it. A rush of disbelief washed over me as the full weight of the situation settled in. I stared at the manager, my mind racing. "So you're telling me, my wife has a lover, and she's spending time with him, all while I'm paying for this trip?" I asked, barely able to form the words. The manager didn't respond, but the expression on his face told me everything I needed to know. He could see the shock in my eyes, but this wasn't his problem to solve. It was mine. And as the reality of the betrayal hit me, everything clicked into place. The lies, the secrecy, the strange behavior, it was all part of a bigger picture. Clara and her entire family were involved in this deception, and they had been using me to fund their affair. I felt sick to my stomach. This wasn't just about a vacation gone wrong. It was about my trust being shattered, my relationship falling apart, and realizing that the people I loved the most had been lying to me all along. I asked the hotel receptionist for the room number where my wife and her lover were staying. My blood was boiling, but my steps were steady. There was no hesitation. I knew what I had to do, and nothing was going to stop me now. I stormed through the corridors, each step harder than the last, until I reached their room. Without a second thought, I knocked, and before Clara could even respond, I shoved the door open. There she was, standing in the doorway, looking at me with that same look of feigned innocence I'd seen too many times before. "Where is he?" I growled, my voice low and controlled, but laced with rage. She blinked, trying to play it off. "Who?" I pushed past her, not waiting for another word. The door swung open, and there he was, Jacob Carter, lying on the bed, scrolling through his phone like nothing was wrong. The sight of them together hit me like a freight train, but I didn't flinch. I didn't even feel the anger rise in me like I thought I would. No, I felt something much stronger, an iron resolve. I stood there for a moment, just letting the scene sink in. This was my wife. This was her lover. And this was the life they had been living on my dime, behind my back, using my trust as their playground. I didn't yell. I didn't need to. There was no need for a scene. I was done with the games, the lies, and the manipulation. I had nothing to prove to them anymore. "Enjoy yourselves," I said, my voice dripping with venom, my words cutting through the silence like a blade. "Because this won't last long. You're about to be thrown out of this hotel, the one I paid for. And that little cozy setup you've got here? It's not going to be yours anymore." Clara froze, her face draining of color as she realized the truth. Jacob's head jerked up, but neither of them said a word. They didn't have to. My presence spoke for itself. The look in my eyes told her everything she needed to know. This was over. And as I turned and walked out of the room, I felt a strange sense of relief, like I was walking away from the life I had once known, ready to let go of the family that had held me captive for so long. After everything I had learned and witnessed with my own eyes, I felt a weight pressing down on my chest. In a daze, I walked to the hotel bar. I ordered a whiskey because I needed something to numb the growing pain inside. I was relaxing in the hotel bar, sipping an old-fashioned, when the moment arrived. Two security guards approached the rooftop cabana as if it were a crime scene. Emma was lounging in a white bikini, cocktail in one hand, phone in the other. My wife's mother floated lazily in the infinity pool. My father-in-law and Eric were dozing in the shade. Then came the words I've been waiting to hear. "Excuse me, ma'am. We need to talk to you about your reservation." Emma blinked, slid down her sunglasses, and let out a soft laugh, like they'd asked her for a selfie. "Sorry, we're kinda busy at the moment," she said. "Can it wait?" "No, ma'am," one of the guards replied firmly. "You need to come with us." The entire deck fell silent. The wife's mom stood upright in the pool, squinting toward the commotion. "Is something wrong?" she asked. "Yes," the manager said. "A very serious issue." That was when Emma saw me. I raised my glass in her direction and smiled. Her expression collapsed. What did you do?" "Hi," I said with sugary politeness. "You booked me a fake hotel. I thought I'd return the favor." "What are you even talking about?" She shot back, standing now, her voice soaked with indignation and sunscreen. "You said you didn't want to stay with us." "No," I corrected her. "I said I was paying for a family vacation, not to be dumped in a rundown shack while you lounged on my dime." "I didn't trick you." I held up my phone and played the recording of our previous call. Emma's voice filled the air. "We just thought it would be easier if you had your own space. You've been so uptight lately." There were audible gasps. One of the guests actually booed. Eric didn't move a muscle. The wife's mom remained in the pool, quietly shaking her head as she whispered, "No, no, no," under her breath. Suddenly, Emma stormed toward me, her eyes wild. "You had no right to throw us out of the hotel." Before I could reply, the hotel manager stepped between us. "Mr. Cross has submitted evidence that the reservation was made under false pretenses. I'm sorry, but all guests tied to this booking must vacate the property immediately." "What?" My wife's voice rose into a shriek. "You're throwing us out?" Emma looked like she was about to implode. "You're actually enjoying this, aren't you?" Without hesitation, I met her gaze. "Yes, completely." "You're disgusting," she hissed. "After everything we've done for you." "Oh, come on," I interrupted, not hiding my disdain. "You haven't done a thing for me. You just needed someone with a last name and a bank account, and I was foolish enough to step up." My father-in-law decided to speak then, raising his voice in a half-hearted attempt at control. "You're blowing this out of proportion. This isn't how a family behaves." "Exactly," I shot back. "Family doesn't lie. Family doesn't shut people out. Family doesn't fake love for 12 years and then dump you like a stray into a sham hotel." The words burned as they left my mouth, each syllable laced with the fury I had been holding in for far too long. I looked around at her family, her parents, her brother, her sister, all of them standing there, eyes cast downward, unwilling to meet my gaze. I had expected this, though. I had known they would turn their backs on me. They always had. But this was beyond what I had imagined. Not only had my wife, the woman I had shared my life with, been sleeping with another man, but now her entire family was complicit in this deception. They had known. They had all known, and yet not one of them had come to me. Not one had told me the truth. They stood there in silence, unable to defend the indefensible. But they had no excuses. Do you know what it feels like to give everything you have, your trust, your love, your time, and be repaid with betrayal? To watch the person you loved most throw it all away, and to see your family just stand by. I shook my head, bitter laughter escaping my lips. They sit there, pretending they care, but they're all part of this. They've been watching this happen for years. They've been watching her waste my money, spending it on lavish getaways with her lover, pretending to be the perfect family, while behind my back they all knew what was really going on. I could feel my anger rising again, but this time it wasn't just directed at Clara. No, it was all of them, the whole damn family, who had supported her lies, who had aided and abetted this treachery, all while I was the fool who had been paying the price. Your daughter, your sister, she's out here living a double life. Not only is she cheating on me, but she's doing it with my money. My money. While she's off vacationing with him, I'm the one left to pick up the pieces, to pay for the lies, to fund her affair. And you? You've sat back and watched it all happen. You've been quiet, complicit in the whole damn thing. I could see it in their eyes, regret, guilt, maybe even shame. But it was too late for apologies, too late for them to pretend they didn't know. They were just as guilty as she was. So, tell me, how do you sleep at night? I spat, the words dripping with disdain. You, her family, sitting here, pretending everything is fine, while I'm the one left to clean up this mess. You're not family anymore. Not to me. You're just strangers who've allowed this to happen, and you've watched it all unfold, without a single word to me. Family doesn't do that. Family doesn't hide the truth, and family doesn't let someone betray another person so horribly, only to watch from the sidelines. You're all part of this betrayal, and from this moment on, I want nothing to do with any of you. The silence that followed was deafening, but I didn't care. I had said everything I needed to say. My heart had been broken, and my trust shattered. And now I was done. Done with the lies. Done with the deceit. Done with all of them. The security team had already begun gathering their belongings. Emma let out a sharp cry when someone reached for her suitcase. I paid for this trip, she shouted. No, I corrected. I did. And this trip? It's officially over. She looked at me like I'd just torn her world apart. I hope you're happy, she sneered. I'm free, I told her. That feels better. Roughly 10 minutes later, I watched through the grand lobby windows as they exited the Hilton. They looked defeated, dragging overpriced suitcases and what remained of their dignity. The cherry on top? The hotel let me stay. They comped the room and even gave me an upgrade. Apparently, exposing con artists with their own resources earns you some goodwill. For the first time in years, I slept deeply. Not just because the new suite's bed felt like it was spun from clouds and soft apologies, but because there was no trace of them. No voices, no fake smiles, no endless demands. Just peace. They were gone. Escorting them out had looked like a scene from a crime show. Meanwhile, I stayed. I enjoyed every bite of the remaining prepaid meals, pampered myself with their spa sessions, sipped their champagne. Whenever I passed by the couple's massage area or saw someone reclining by the pool in a plush robe, I couldn't help but picture the whole family being forcibly removed and smile to myself. What I didn't anticipate was the aftermath. It started subtly, with a few missed calls. First from my wife's mother, then father, then Emma. But the kicker came in the form of a group voicemail. They must have recorded it in the same room, sounding like a clumsy attempt at a tearful documentary. We just want to understand, my wife's mother said, her voice trembling. You didn't need to embarrass us, Emma added, clearly attempting to cry, though it came off as forced. We're still a family, my father-in-law concluded, tonelessly. I didn't bother listening further. I deleted it. My wife's relatives called me several times and tried to appeal to sympathy, claiming they were struggling, like that was supposed to make everything okay. But it didn't. It wasn't enough. Because I had struggled, too. While they were indulging in shrimp cocktails and laughing behind closed doors at my expense, I was barely getting by. When they reserved luxurious presidential suites for themselves, I was left with dingy motel rooms and empty promises. I fought battles alone. No one stood beside me then. But now, the tables had turned. They were the ones fighting to stay afloat. And me? For the first time in years, I was truly breathing. Then, I did something I hadn't planned. I sent a group message. Next time you expect me to fund your vacation, at least pretend I'm part of it. Oh wait, there won't be a next time. Then I blocked them all. I transferred every dollar from the shared account with my wife into my private one and shut down the shared car service she had been using for years. Then, something unexpected began to unfold. Messages started pouring in. Her distant relatives, mutual acquaintances, even her aunt from Michigan. They all told me similar things. You did the right thing. I always thought they never treated you fairly. Apparently, the so-called golden children weren't so beloved by everyone. People had watched for years as I footed every bill and received nothing but condescension in return. Now, they were silently rooting for me. 2 days later, I saw the text from Clara. Mason, I'm so sorry for everything. I've been so lost, and I don't know why I did it. Please, don't give up on us. Another one came through moments later. I know I've betrayed your trust, and I can't take that back. But I swear I'll do anything to prove to you how sorry I am. Please, Mason, please don't leave me. Another message came through, this one more desperate than the others. I'm begging you, Mason. Don't walk away from me. I love you. Please don't let this be the end. The betrayal had already happened, and no apology, no matter how heartfelt, could ever erase what she had done. I didn't respond to any of them. Instead, I dropped a photo into our family group chat. Me, relaxing in the rooftop pool as the sun dipped below the horizon. The caption? Vacation's just getting started.